post presence in the Beetham area. We had 22 people voting on the poll this morning. Of the 22 people voting in the allotted time, 19 of you said yes, 3 of you said no. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day, through all programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning. So 19 said yes, there should be a permanent police post. 3 people said no, they don't agree with that. Of course, one of the persons that said no would have been the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, who said that, there were certain departments or units that should be able to deal with that, and that you should be able to deal with that in terms of police intelligence, etc., etc. I'm paraphrasing, but basically he does not think that a police post is necessary. He says that's manpower, that's resources.
Yeah.
Could better utilize elsewhere.
Right, yeah. Well, online, 67%, it says yes. I just got onto our guest, the Honorable Minister Fitzgerald Hinds. He's just wrapping up a high-powered meeting, and he's going to give me a ding-a-ling when he's finished, and we'll give him a call at that time.
Right. My camera is giving trouble this morning, just in case you know, so I don't know what the hell is going on with it.
That's what happened when you look at it. Yeah, like that, eh? Yeah, they'll come back.
Maturity brings silence sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I won't respond to you, Steve Can.
Is that an iguana in your house?
Yes. Well, I ran it out this morning. Isn't that horrible? I mean, what the hell is that?
An iguana? Oh my God, how he got in?
I have no idea. It's very disturbing.
Yeah, we have an iguana by us. We call him.
Do you realize I have a pack of curry waiting for it there?
What's the mark on that, boy? What really is the mark for that? Iguana in your house. What's the mark? Somebody sent me a message. That's a mark in there.
What's an iguana in the house?
The Honorable Senator.
Well, let him put it on camera.
He did. It's on the group. A different kind of camera. A still shot.
It's in the house? That's strange. Iguanas are
generally... But it was. I ran it this morning, so...
Okay. Iguanas don't generally come in.
No, they don't.
But it was raining last night, so maybe he felt cold.
Could be.
I guess. You don't have dogs?
Yeah.
And those dogs are you going to get in?
Yes, your kind of dogs too.
You know how much time I see a dead iguana in my driveway?
Yeah, we have one. I call him.
Once you slip off that wall and your phone,
that is the end of you.
That is that.
That's the end of your life over.
I've gotten iguanas, I've gotten lizards, because you have some large lizards. Mm-hmm. And then I've also gotten cats. A cat walking on the wall and slip. That's it. That's it. End of story.
I don't want to hear.
End of story. You're supposed to know by now, you know what? Avoid that house.
You and this police top you have. I like it. What's the brand?
I don't even know it. I can't read it from here. I can't read it from here. Sorry.
TTPS is you? It looks like a TTPS sweater.
No, it's not actually.
All right. Well, let's hear what you have to say. 222-TALK, 612-TALK, while we wait for the minister to give me a buzz. He just finished.
Ragoobarsingh froze for some reason. I don't know what's going on this morning.
No.
With the internet. Well, you're back now.
Yeah, you're back to
the internet is giving trouble this morning, I think.
Yeah, it is. Because I just got a sign that says your internet connection is unstable.
Yeah. You know that yesterday, I don't know if it's rectified now, but that the entire Point Fortin area had no internet from any provider.
Yes?
Yesterday morning first. Yeah, I don't know if it's rectified now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But all providers will go down at the same time. That's crazy.
Yeah. The person that told me had it got 2 providers, and they said none was working. All right.
What is Manicam, Paul?
It's a streaming service It's a streaming service that is another program that I use for another meeting.
Oh, okay.
So that's the computer camera should have come on, but it's not coming on. So that it defaulted to that
Oh, okay.
that program camera.
Oh, I get you.
Oh, all right. We have a call. Good morning.
Hey, morning, Wendell.
Hey, so long we hear from you.
Wendell is the one person that not on the show this morning. That's the first name you call.
Yeah, Paul, Ms. Maloney says play 18.
Yeah, I listened to Mr. Paul Richard this morning. Mr. Paul Richard, morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Patrick. How are you this morning?
Great.
And how is your lovely wife?
Everybody all right?
Wonderful.
Right, I listened this morning with the rant and rave for the education and the low grades and scores. But there's a problem we have been having for the longest while.
Not at this level. Not to this level.
Well, all right, listen. I know, and people know, a lot of children will make high grades during this pandemic because it affects them a lot. You understand? But I would like to know, the children who apply for certain prestige school, how much marks do they make right now? They make 75, they make how much? 85, 95, I don't know, but we had this problem a long time. A long time we had this problem, and like
Mr. Patrick, we always have a situation where there are students who score at different levels. We have not had a situation where a pandemic has interrupted instruction and schooling, and you have as many as 9,000 students scoring below 5,000. So we haven't always had this specific situation.
But listen, the Ministry of Education never used to give us the amount of people who make under that score.
Yes, they do. Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
It hasn't reached 9,000 because we haven't had a pandemic interrupting instruction at that level. But they generally give you the percentages of students who score in the lower 25th percentile, the median, the 75th percentile, and the 90th percentile. They give out that information generally.
Right. Richard Ragoobarsingh had a nice observation. When school open, that's the time you need to put all those children in a certain class and allow certain teachers to try to remedy the problem, because August holiday, a lot of parents are going and send no children over there.
And what special classes that you're talking about? When you have 9,000 of students who need that, what special class?
So 9,000 children across the board in different schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be going in some classes across the board in the schools. This 4 weeks, it can be a quick pick. That's remedying nothing. That's not remedying anything. What they're trying to do, obviously when they have August holidays, a lot of children who have low grades, they just fall back because of the holidays. But some of them just take that time to go classes too. Right? So is it the parenting to it? All that to do with parenting, the pandemic and everything. Right? So it's a hard thing, but they have to try something. I go on, listen.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Patrick, for your contribution this morning.
Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, well, putting into the failure rate for those that scored under the 50% and the volume, it's not surprising to me in light of what transpired with the pandemic. But my concern is not really what occurred, but what is the measures that need to be employed now to ensure that those persons get the remedial help, to ensure that they'll reach an acceptable level. Besides that, I agree with your assessment this morning pertaining to the protest yesterday, because none of the videos I saw, none of the issues seem to be focused on the fellas that lost their lives. Everything focused on destruction of persons not affiliated with the killings of the 4 individuals. And there was one particular video that I find extremely disturbing, and I will just say like this. If it is that you have a particular brand, you will ensure that everything is possible to protect your brand and not associate your brand with anything else. So when I saw a video of a guy wearing a particular jersey purporting, and he expressly showed affiliation with a particular party, I would have expected that you would have seen some form of response from the party disassociating themselves with the actor. Instead, there was a promotion in terms of generalizing and saying that to protect the black youth. Right? So it's like provocateurs adding flame to the fire. And I think that it's about time that persons holding form of leadership to come out and speak out against those acts. And the media themselves, not all, but we have to be careful in terms of how we carry it, in terms of provoking a response, because we haven't seen any information as yet that purporting or disassociating the fellas and them in terms of whether they had a gun or a response, whatever the case may be. So we are still awaiting response. And additionally, the police need to have a bit of improvement in terms of their strategic communication. Right? So that is my observation about the transpire yesterday. Thanks.
All right, thank you, caller. We are taking some of your calls. 222-TALK, 612-TALK, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099. Of course, we're just waiting on our guest, Honorable Fitzgerald Hinds, to join us. He's just finishing up a meeting, and he is going to join us soon after. He'll call me and let me know when we can call him. All right?
So we are taking your calls at this point on the Power Breakfast Show. Of course, you will have an opinion about what took place yesterday. Well, I shouldn't say you will, but you may have an opinion. So we can take some of your calls on that. What you thought about what took place yesterday in terms of the protests,
Traffic,
and chaos that it caused, the traffic gridlock that it caused.
That it was intended to cause.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether you were actually caught up in it or whether you were watching it from afar from the comfort of your home. So 222-TALK, 222-8255, 612-8255. North Americans, well, you would have all been watching that from your comfort of your home on Independence Day yesterday. So happy 4th of July, belatedly, to our American audience. So you can also weigh in on it. And of course, you have a toll-free number at 866-525-1099.
And sadly, there was a shooting on a parade route in Illinois. You know.
Well, more mass shootings again.
Yeah.
4 or 5 people died. And they like us to hold on to the gun laws. Well, not a problem. Well, sadly, it will continue until they change their access to gun laws.
6 people died from age 8.
They said there's been a shooting every week for the year so far.
Crazy.
Yeah, and they don't see that something wrong.
Crazy.
No other country has this kind of level of gun violence in terms of mass shootings like that. But they don't seem to think anything wrong with that. And as we said, and unfortunately now children seem to be fair game in these horrific situations.
Yeah.
They're not even differentiating children anymore. As a matter of fact, some are targeting children. You're human beings, eh?
Yeah. Humans are a special species.
Yeah, well, we've always been a violent
Always
species.
special.
Always been a violent species.
So I'll be taking some of your calls. Any calls coming through there, Steve Can?
I see one here. It looks like Mr. Patrick.
Yes. I was a call back to talk about this protest. I don't look at that as a protest. I look at that as a terrorism, brother. You understand? Because here what's going on. 4 fellas get shoot, right? I don't know what they did, what they didn't do, or what they didn't do. But when you could keep a whole country to ransom, you understand? Because yesterday I was in the mall and some people are asking me if they overthrow Port of Spain. Like how serious some people were looking at the thing and they were frightened. You understand? And let me tell you, thousands of people's lives was being disrupted. I was hearing that some people are going to the airport.
I was considering using that word earlier this morning, and I restrained myself from using that word. But
And I tell you,
but when
people,
and I'm not going to use the word. I'm going to keep it at protest because I'm trying to be moderate. But when you start to to initiate actions that have people anxious and create fear and chaos,
Yep.
you're veering closer and closer to maybe people considering using that word. So you need to be very careful in the future. And that's why I said I agree with putting a police post there.
but it had people who was very anxious and agitated. My son called me and asked me that he was to pass. He tried the Boshuti car pass, the highway car pass, and thousands of people find themselves in a problem.
Yeah, and everybody decided all at once to go through Lady Young Road, which was just chaos.
Yeah. And
All right.
innocent people do nobody nothing.
Yeah, people got their windshields smashed up, broken, shattered.
They need to put an army base around it, but I want to find out something. Where all the police intelligence that has been outside? Them don't know that was going to happen by.
But you know, strangely enough, Mr. Patrick, on my way to work yesterday morning, you know, I said to myself, you know, I think something is going to happen because there were 4 police cars on the eastbound Beetham. And I'm saying, maybe something going to happen. Maybe they're looking at something. They want to catch somebody, not knowing that it's really a protest they want to do.
I know.
But I just found it odd.
I know this is a Gary Griffiths, and he said intelligence, something went wrong. Just scrap everything. There you go, yes.
All right, thanks, Mr. Patrick. In fact, while we wait on the Minister of National Security, I should call Kareem Marcel. Let me get started. He's the Beetham Gardens PRO, or should I say activist. So let me try and call him, guys.
I don't know if he's the Beetham activist, but I know he's been a spokesperson for some residents of the Beetham in the past. I think he got his LEC. He announced he got his LEC yesterday.
Yeah, he passed the bar yesterday.
So he's now eligible to be called to the bar. Is that how it works, Richard?
Mm-hmm.
When you pass the
Pass
LEC,
the
you're
bar.
eligible to be called to the bar?
Yeah. That's the final process.
So congratulations to him. And his mom. You know.
Yeah, sure. So, Kareem, good morning. Congratulations. We were just talking about that.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Khan. Good morning.
Morning, and of course,
Recording in progress.
I do have Richard Ragoobarsingh, who's an attorney. I should let you know.
Okay.
Morning, congratulations, Kareem, man. Well done.
Congrats.
Good
When
morning.
you're looking to be admitted, Kareem.
By the more than likely in November of this year, God's willing.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, we wanted to chat with you a bit about what happened in the Beetham Gardens yesterday and what your thoughts are on it. Of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was sparked by the situation where, is it 4 or 3 men were killed by police gunfire, which is being investigated?
Yes, correct. It was sparked by an incident that would have occurred Saturday morning, thereabouts, in Independence Square, Portersfield, where 3 young men, 2 of whom were from the community of Beetham Gardens and the other being from Laventille, were, and of course there were three remaining survivors. One that that remains in hospital. 2 that were in police custody, but as of the last evening around 7 p.m., one of the young men was released without any charges. As I was reliably informed by his attorney that we were able to retain for him in the matter. So the protest action came on the heels of that, but it came on the heels of more than 48 hours after the incident would have occurred. And within that 48 hours, what you had was absolute silence. You had nothing from the police complaints authority acknowledging that the event occurred and that an investigation was taking place. And many persons may not have known. I've seen that the Guardian being the first mainstream media to publish the article today about the unconstitutional and unlawful place that the PCA is in because of the president's failure to appoint to appoint or reappoint any deputy director of the PCA. And for the folks listening, what this essentially means is that pursuant to Section 6 of the PCA Act, there must be a deputy director and a director in order for the PCA to exist and to have its lawful authority. And because the term of Mrs. Michelle Solomon Bash would have ended on June 29th, thereabout, which was last week or so, and no one was reappointed to that post, the PCA doesn't have the legislative and lawful authority to investigate or to operate within the confines of the PCA Act. So we had absolute silence, or let's just say we had absolute silence from the PCA because they can't, and that is subject to scrutiny. And if anyone can refute it, then that will be fine. So we had absolute silence, and then we had absolute silence as well from the police service. There's no official report as to what happened, if any investigation was ongoing. Yes, it could be inferred. But no acknowledgement as to who, if any, investigator was appointed. And in fact, the commissioner confirmed that only yesterday, Senior Superintendent Brandon John of the Police Division was appointed and as the lead investigator, and that is how in collaboration we can see that one of the young men was able to release because you had yesterday evening, because you had an investigator appointed, and that investigator would have determined after all the swab analysis and so on that this young man ought not to be in custody because he wasn't even the driver, and there was nothing to support that he was involved in any criminal activity. And you also had the third alarming silence was that you had absolute no acknowledgement, not even a word of condolences. And this is not me saying whether the young men were guilty or not, because I just as the Constitution guarantees their presumption of innocence, I am assuming that presumption of innocence over them. One, not only on just the basis of the constitutionality, but because of the first-hand information that I would have personally received from one of the surviving victims in that vehicle, and his story is when compared to the unofficial, because there were not, until after the protest, there was not one official statement from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service as to what transpired. And then again, I just want to come back to the third set of things. You had not one a member of parliament, a minister, any government official that would have seen the lives of 3 young men, 17-year-old, 20 years. You are seeing 3 young men within your constituents that would have lost their lives, and it's not a matter of you going to be trying to be prejudiced to the entire situation or whatever. But even if you take off your politician and your hat, and you take off your minister this hat and your MP this hat, these are lives that were lost, and no one saw it fit within 48 hours to even send condolences to the loss of 3 young, precious lives. The lives of 3 young men of impeccable character within the community of Beetham Gardens and Lavington. And then you had this absolute silence. And then when the community exploded, the community express how they feel in the way that many of them believe that is the only way that they can get the level of redress. Because I will tell you, even on Sunday night, members of the families went down to the spot and light some candles to do a small vigil and there were a team of officers that came and kicked down the candles and tell them, "It have no loitering here," as if they were lighting candles on their doorsteps or in their private property.
So, Karima, are you suggesting the residents, or some of the residents, because it's not all, were provoked into what we saw yesterday? And do you endorse what we saw yesterday?
I am never an advocate for illegal protest. The first thing first, it is very risky, and we can ask, and if Onella Grace were alive today, we could have asked her, because we have seen it time and time again of the risk that, especially in these communities, that our residents face when engaged in that. The second thing is of course the damage that is done at times. Many of times of the very of many of the few misguided ones in the process, that of course that I don't want to want it to be overshadowed by the general message. But I am never an advocate for these illegal protests.
How would you respond to those who suggest that while anyone can understand the kind of frustration and angst residents may feel, given the recent history the TTPS has had in urban areas? We saw what happened 3 years ago in Mova and other incidents. When the protest action escalates to what we saw yesterday in the Beetham, on Lady Young Road, and I think maybe on Duncan Street, that it is not aimed only at the police. It is aimed at law-abiding citizens and disrupts their lives. So it turns into something else in public perception.
Yes, and it's always good, of course, to weigh the pros and cons. And on one side, you have the inconvenience that the public would face, and on the next side, you have.
Well, I think to be fair, Kareem, calling it inconvenience is understating it. That wasn't inconvenience. People got anxious. People got frightened. People got afraid. It disrupted people's lives. It wasn't mere inconvenience. I don't think inconvenience is the term you want to use there.
Yeah. People windshields got broken.
Yeah, people were vandalized. Vehicles were vandalized.
All right, and why is those allegations as it relates to persons' vehicles being broken and so on?
Well, they're not allegations. They're
not
allegations.
They are allegations because the police service, when questioned about it, said that they received no such report yesterday on the beat as it relates to broken vehicle. We have seen people putting up there were allegations as to whether, and I'm not here to defend whether it happened or not. I personally didn't see it, and I'm saying that police did not, when asked yesterday in my presence by the media as it relates to whether they had any reports of the broken, at the time of any broken, damaged or vandalized vehicles and so on, that was not confirmed, nor that the CPS had any information, nor did I have any information as to that occurred. And just to answer the initial question as it relates to the comment as it relates to the understatement of the inconvenience, as you would have rightly called about the anxiousness and the fight that many citizens were faced with. And I am not here to, and it wasn't my attempt to underplay the effects of such, because I have nothing to defend as it relates to these protest actions. Because one, I wasn't a part of the protest action, and two, I openly since yesterday have condemned the illegal protest. But
let me just make it clear. We have the greatest respect for you, and we're not suggesting you were involved in organizing or participating in any way. Okay?
Yeah. That's right. So, but what I was merely doing is trying to compare and contrast. And why that is one aspect of it, and I do not wish to take away from that, because I do not wish to take away from that or to underplay. I also want to say at the very same time that while its actions were wrong, we also have on the other hand the other side of it. the demand for justice and what would have transpired. And I think that while I'm not trying to stay focused on one or the other, that both of them must be placed into the equation in order to get a fair analysis as to what exactly transpired.
Well said. I agree fully with that. One doesn't take away from the importance of the other one. So
Kareem, we saw another video yesterday that part 2 is coming.
Well, I did see the video around yesterday evening. It seems as if it was in Cedars, and so far, last night I heard about that in on the Lady Young, there was a few attempts at blocking the road, but after that I have heard nothing. And generally speaking, there has been a very high police turnout and presence in key areas around in and around the community, and I expect and I hope that the police service could maintain that level. And I will call on all members in my community who have engaged in this action to desist from it, because I will tell you, why again that I do not support it, I do not condone it, I wasn't a part of it. The reality is, if we are looking at the results right after that protest or during the protest, you would realize that one, we had an acknowledgement from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service by way of the Commissioner of Police, by way of the press conference yesterday, as to the incidents that would have transpired. For the first time, after 48 hours have passed, you had an investigator finally appointed in Mr. Brandon, and Senior Sue Brandon John, right? You had members of the TTP, of the rank and file of the TTP, Senior Sue Subero and Senior Sue Eli, who would have visited the family, extended their condolences, and ensure them that even though that the PCA has its constitutional issues, that they would be guiding them as it relates to, and they gave them contact numbers for the investigators and so on, who would contact them to pass on the information from the witnesses and so on. But when you had, that is something that you did not have pre-protest, and that is a reality, and that is what it is unfortunate that many times, even if it's whether it's some sewer line, the sewer issue in Beacom Gardens, whether it's the Caledonia the Caledonia police killing 3 years on tape, it almost seems as if many times that these communities have to get the results that they want. They have to engage in that, and that too in itself is a serious issue.
So is that an indictment on, because you're saying that, in other words, people in that area feel unheard in terms of when they have issues that challenge them, and their only response is to block off main arteries into the city of Port of Spain, which affects, of course, thousands and thousands of people, and raise the specter of even health centers having to close yesterday, which was a reality that the Northwest Regional Health Authority had to close. And so it affects much more than just people's discomfort in sitting in a gridlock. It can potentially affect people's lives. And so is it an indictment on the representatives in your area?
Because and the MP is the Minister of National Security.
Because the political process, you have representatives in these areas that you could have utilized, and when I say you know what I mean, that could have been utilized in terms of saying, look, we are very upset about the issue of what transpired yesterday. You are the Minister of National Security. Can you find out what is going on with regard to what, because we feel these fellas were innocent. And there was a lot of consternation too. There was burgeoning consternation from a lot of the citizenry about what exactly happened at Independence Square that early morning. Mm-hmm. But it seems, and it comes across, Kareem, that once there is any initial challenge with information, or once information is, which is what you're saying, is not prompt enough, that the default reaction is, let's cause mayhem and chaos. Mm-hmm. That can't work.
Yeah.
So is it that they have no confidence in your representatives, and you have a high-powered representative, actually, as high as it comes in terms of dealing with this issue. So is there reluctance to deal with that representative? Or is it that the default reaction of causing chaos is more attractive?
Yes. I would say, right? When the incident would have transpired, and this is not even, trying to be personal about it, but you have 3 of the young men who lost their lives. 3 of those young men and their families fall within the constituents of Laventille West. You have the Member of Parliament and the Minister of National Security. Without trying to prejudice the investigation, had the Minister and MP perhaps take off his ministerial hat, take off whatever hat, and understand his role as a representative, and was able to reach out to the families immediately, knowing well, one, the silence of the PCA and why it could have occurred, and go to these families and express, one, your condolences because of the loss of young, precious life, regardless of the circumstances, and without casting aspersion as to the guilt of the young men or the officers involved, but to ensure that you would use your office as a tool to advocate for a thorough investigation, because by way of the setup and the office that you hold, that you can liaise with the committee, with the TTPS, and to find out information as it relates to the policy decision, as it relates to how the investigation would go in terms of whether an investigation would be.
Well, I can't argue with that at all, Kareem, because I think that's very valid a statement. Because any police killing of any citizen, I am certainly an advocate for that. Any police killing needs to be investigated. Once a citizen has died at the hands of the police service, there needs to be an investigation. A civilized and democratic, law-abiding country has no other choice but to investigate those things. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I cannot argue that maybe a Minister Hinds would have dropped the ball in terms of being more interactive with the community with regard to that issue, because that's a very valid statement.
But Kareem is right. He is also the representative of the people of that constituency who voted him to represent them, voted for him to represent them.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. And it's my personal opinion that if that human intervention, that representative intervention was immediate or within that 48-hour time period, right? That maybe, just maybe, if it's highly likely that the families and would have felt as if there was that, yes, someone is looking out for us, an investigation is ongoing. And again, putting back into the equation as well, the reality that usually when these things happen, the PCA would be on the ground right through, but it could not have been. And the minister ought to have recognized that was an unusual thing as it relates to this particular circumstance, and intervene in a way that could assure persons not with any prejudicial. We're not telling you to come and say the police wicked. We're not coming to want us to say that the young boys were right or this one were, but 3 precious lives were lost. Families that
all they want is to feel that they're being heard and that the situation is being expeditiously addressed. So a statement that it is, I give you assurance, it is being investigated, may have served to comfort some of the residents.
No, but I could understand, Paul, I could understand if it is that you believe that your son or my child is not involved in anything at all and has been wrongfully killed by the TT police. That is a level of parental anger that I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, as Kareem has suggested, a comment from the Member of Parliament, who is the Minister of National Security, on the issue that it is being investigated, and I give you the assurance the investigation will be fully transparent, will serve well to ensure that the residents feel some sort of placation or comfort at some level.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
But I can understand the anger and pain of parents.
And especially given what's happened in the past.
And especially if you see it as absolutely unjust and that you know your children were not involved in anything. As I say now, I can't decide on innocence or guilt in this situation, as you referenced, Kareem. But certainly if you as a parent feel and know that your child was not involved in anything and the police killed them, no parent should have to go through that in any country on the planet.
Richard, a parent losing a child in any circumstance is very heart-wrenching and distressing. Kareem, we're out of time, but thank you for being with us.
Yes.
We hope to check in with you again soon to see how it's...
I will.
Thanks so much for
right.
having me, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, Kareem Marcel,
Recording
thank you so
stopped.
much. All the best to you. You can leave that on, Paul, because I'm going to my news update. You can leave Dorothy on. And right after our news update, we'll have the Honorable Minister Fitzgerald Hinds. Let's get into a news brief, all powered by Champlain Auto Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith says transparency is important in dealing with police killings. Speaking this morning on Boom Champions 94.1 FM, Griffith said this is why body cams are important. However, he criticized the police attitude to using body cams, suggesting that senior officers are not as insistent as they should be regarding its use. He added that the Police Complaints Authority is also important in ensuring transparency in matters such as police killings. He made his comments in light of the protests yesterday, which were fueled by a police-involved shooting on Saturday morning, which resulted in the deaths of 3 Beetham residents. A car on fire at the overpass near NP on the Beetham Highway has resulted in the closure of the overpass. Fire crews are on site and are working to extinguish the blaze. Up till news time, police on site were unsure if the fire was the result of an accident or if it was intentionally set as part of protests. Traffic is backed up on the Beetham Highway as a result of overpass closure. There are some very bad police officers in the TTPS, and innocent lives might be negatively impacted by the Bail Amendment Bill 2019. Opposition Senator Wade Mark indicated this in yesterday's Senate debate on the bill, which seeks to extend certain bail powers, especially regarding repeat offenders and firearms issues, until August 2023. Mark said the opposition United National Congress would not support the bill as it violates the Constitution. Even as protests were taking place in parts of Port of Spain yesterday, following the fatal police shooting of 3 men on Saturday morning in the capital city, officers were meeting with relatives of one of the men. The talks between senior officers and relatives of Leonardo Williams took place in Beetham Gardens. The meeting, which was cordial, was led by Senior Superintendent Oswin Subero and Senior Superintendent Earl Eli. Senior Superintendent Eli assured the grieving father that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service would do all in its power to investigate the matter thoroughly and allow for the justice system to take its course. He said all the facts would be revealed. And U.S. police have arrested a suspect after 6 people were killed in a mass shooting at an Independence Day parade in Highland Park, Illinois. Robert E. Cremo, the third, 22, was detained after a brief chase, police said. The gunman climbed onto a roof, shooting randomly at spectators using a high-powered rifle. It is the latest mass shooting to hit the U.S. There has been one every week of 2022. President Joe Biden said he was shocked by the violence. Well, that was your news update to 8 o'clock. Look out for news in full coming up at 12 noon.
Do you need to get work done on your vehicle? Look no further than the Auto Champions, Champlain Auto Services. From vehicle inspection to shutdown service, they do it all. Champlain Auto Services, great mechanics and technicians, exceptional customer service with accessories galore. Champlain Auto Services is your one-stop shop. They are your Auto Champions. You name it, they can fix it. Champlain Auto Services, Eastern Main Road, opposite Carib. Call 662-6545 and like us on Facebook. Champlain Auto Services. We do it all.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right, 5
Recording
minutes
in
after the hour of
progress.
8 o'clock. Thank you so much, Champlain Auto Services, for powering our 8 o'clock news brief. They're on the Eastern Main Road opposite Caribou. Give them a call, 662-6545. Thank you so much, Champlain Auto Services. Gentlemen, on the line, I do have the Honorable Minister Fitzgerald Hinds. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very warmly, Mr. Khan. And you?
Not too bad at all. Of course, we have Paul Richards and Richard Ragoobarsingh. I know you know them. And,
Very well. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Minister Hinds,
thank you
and
for taking the
welcome.
time to speak with us this morning.
Welcome to the
Gentlemen?
Power
Thank you
Breakfast
very
Show
kindly.
this morning. I suppose we could jump straight into it. We just spoke to Kareem. What is Kareem's name?
Kareem Marcel, yes.
Marcel from the Beetham area, and we were talking about generally the incident that took place yesterday. And I raised with him that the issue was if the residents had an issue with the shooting of those three young men early on Sunday morning or Saturday morning, I can't remember which one it was. They have one of the most high-powered representatives, who is actually the Minister of National Security. Why wasn't he liaised with in terms of getting some traction or getting some level of investigation going, which is what they're calling for, an investigation into the killing of these three men at the hands of the police? And one of the replies that Kareem gave was, well, why didn't the representative also come forward and understand that there was a responsibility on your part to liaise with the community with regard to what took place? How would you answer that?
Well, from a factual standpoint, it so happened that responding to a call from a group of the constituents at the Beetham, in the Beetham community, I had scheduled a 2 p.m. engagement at the community center with them on Saturday. And therefore, when I would learn of this matter early Saturday morning, of course, getting feedback from the police and from the defense force. So I continued my plan to be on the Beetham, and I went down on the Beetham and engaged with dozens of constituents. Apart from in the actual setting of the community center, I then went over to the football field where there was the finals in a football competition. I had myself a non-alcoholic beverage there, and I interfaced with many of my constituents around that event. Not one of them raised that matter with me, which is perhaps explained in the context that those who I interfaced with may not have been a part of or may not have been aware of the issue or any planned protestation.
But were you aware of the shooting incident at that time when you visited the community center and the residents?
Yes. When I went there, I was aware of that.
Did you address it with any of the residents about possible the investigation?
No, I would not address that matter because that is a matter now I would be aware under investigation. And if a group had come to me and raised it, my reply would have been, I would of course express sympathy as I have done since on every occasion since that event would have happened. In fact, one of the boys involved in that who was shot is the son of a very good friend and worker of mine in Laventille. And she was on the phone crying and telling me all about this incident before. So I am aware of the intimate issues around this too, but I would not say very much, even if I was invited to, because I know these are very acutely sensitive issues. And all I would have done, had I been approached, is to assure them, as I have done before and in every case, sincerely, that a true and proper investigation or investigations would be carried out and the chips will fall where they may. That would have been my position.
We should have asked you this, Dad. Can you give us an official update on the status in and around the area this morning?
Say again? You mean
can you give us a status from your possible interface with the TTPS about the situation this morning?
Well, I have not had any reports of any adverse developments or any continuation of the matters because, they would update me if they had to, but I am aware because I've seen video recordings of it and I get reports from the police that the police was out through the night last night in heavy presence along all and around all of the areas that showed signs of flare up and the areas from their intelligence where they felt it necessary to cast an eye. So I
But
think the night would have passed quietly in that regard and rather quietly into the morning today from the information available to me.
well, it seems, and you would have said it in a prior interview in a next place that it seemed very organized in terms of the protest yesterday. Was
It was
there,
very well organized.
and since it was very well organized, is this reflective of an intelligence failure on the national security apparatus in not picking up early enough or preemptively enough that this was being planned?
Well, I can't know what the police would know, but I can tell you one thing truthfully, because this is something I'm privy to. When I went to the BSM on Saturday, as I've just related to you, a senior police officer discussed the event of the morning with me and that sort of thing, and told me in the context of that they were anticipating protests, particularly Monday morning, because the police would have been aware that when they plan the protest, they try to do it at a time that will cause the greatest inconvenience for the greatest impact from their perspective. So the police kept an eye on things, and really they were planning, they were stockpiling material and so on, I understand. And the police went in there. I would then learn, yesterday I learned, the police sent in the community police and spoke to them and must have gotten assurances from them and so on. And of course, the police were out there in attendance early hours of Monday morning, which is when they would tend to do things, and that passed off and nothing happened. So it happened all around 11 o'clock, perhaps when that immediate police presence and observation might have slowed somewhat in that particular area.
As Minister of National Security, how concerned are you about now? This is not the first time we've seen this kind of incident initiated in the Beetham Gardens, about coordinated, well, seemingly, let me say seemingly coordinated, but you said it was coordinated, yes, so I'd have to say seemingly, protest action, and I'm using that word very mildly, that to me seeks to disrupt the lives and the comings and goings of citizens to the extent that it causes a significant level of anxiety among the population nationally.
I am deeply concerned about that. As you correctly pointed out, this would not be the first time that we have had sight of that. And we are aware that there are all kinds of influences. For example, I mean, quite frankly, you would have seen some of the young men in political T-shirts of a political party. So you will find, and then I read some commentary, political hawks would probably have gone in to try to capitalize on the mayhem to see what they could gain out of it. And yes, they are very organized in the sense that, as you already know, this unfortunate situation of gangs, so you have the gang, they may have their main base in Area A, but they do have groups which are loyal to them and supportive of them and membership with them in different parts of the communities. And when the word goes out, if I may use the language of the street, when the word passes, they all organize and they know what to do. We've seen this before, so it is in that context I said that it was organized. I'm very concerned because it's not just stopping the traffic, you know. They went and they set fire. Arson took place yesterday, you know. It's a swim call facility which would cost swim call a lot of money, and I had to see fire service vehicles out there for long hours, employing resources, trying to deal with some tires, and some other facility that Swimcall had there suffered fire damage as well. So
when you bring in the specter of arson and causing disruptions and destabilizing the national calm, are we going perhaps beyond protest action here?
Well, clearly, because the police arrested 8 persons in the context of what happened yesterday. I don't know for what reason. I don't know for what they have been or may be charged. But certainly there are persons in situations like that who go beyond the line, beyond the limit, and commit criminal offenses. in the process. That happens. I saw bottles being pelted. I understand some journalists were struck because they mistook the journalist team for police officers. So that is evidence on the face of it, prima facie. In prima facie terms, that there were actually attacks on the police or intended attacks on the police. So you do have people getting involved in criminality, which is why while we empathize with them and we understand why they might behave in those ways, two things operate in one's mind. You cannot condone criminality making a bad situation worse, and as well inconveniencing everyone else. Victims come in your path when you do that. But as well, one has to bear in mind that those you just can't condone that. Let me put
From
it
a
like that.
policy perspective, which is where the ministry level lies, do you think the time has come for a permanent police post in the Beetham Gardens?
No, I don't think so. We have, the police have a police post, actually a community police. The IATF has a community police post next to the community center in the Beetham, and they are active in that community on an hour-by-hour basis, involved in everything in the community. They're there. And of course, if something untoward is happening, they relate to their colleagues at Besor Street, the IATF. Remember, we have a police unit, the transit unit, right there in Vemcott compound. The Besor Street station is there, and the IATF and they were not far away in the El Socorro area. But I can tell you, based on the patrol grids that are happening now, police are always present in those communities. But different types of crime requires different types of policing. So you will see different kinds of operations from the police, quite apart from the patrols. And even a standing patrol, there's a permanent patrol too, actually, along the Beetham priority bus route by Parsley Street Junction. You see one there, and then there's one down by the Excel Primary School. On an
How much analysis takes place after an event like this? Because I heard you on that saying that the police were aware that there were the possibility of protests, but it took place later at 11 a.m. So they, in a sense, kind of outwitted the police, and so it still points to me to some level of an intelligence failure. And how much does this fuel an analysis not only of the TTPS but the National Security Council in terms of looking at, because it disrupted not only citizens' lives in terms of gridlock. The Northwest Regional Health Authority had to close some of its facilities. You also had businesses closing stuff early because it has affected economic activity.
And environmental too. And
environmental. So I mean, how much of that is reviewed?
The experts in that regard, the intelligence persons and the police and the defense force, and they are constantly looking at these situations. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's quite some analysis taking place. But I also know that criminals move. If the criminals see the police here, they sometimes operate elsewhere and so on. And it all happens simultaneously too. So you will find that, if a fella is doing something here and the police is here, they shift around and they do things. So it's a cat and mouse game sometimes, but you know how it goes. But the police have their ways of working these things out. Unfortunately, you and I are not police, so we have to leave those matters to them.
Yeah. Well, we had a brief conversation. Coincidentally, he was passing through with the former Commissioner of Police, Mr. Guy Griffith, and he in terms of his analysis, or brief analysis of the issue, he blamed some units that were formed under his tenure that were disbanded, that he said would have been a plus in dealing with this situation. How do you respond to that?
I do not wish to respond to that.
Do you wish to make a comment on the former commissioner reapplying for the post of commissioner?
I do not wish to comment upon that for the time being. I'm a parliamentarian, and that process comes before the parliament at some point, and it would be inappropriate. And,
going back to the area, the
inhumane, and perhaps even inhumane to comment upon that at this juncture.
Going back to the the constituency that you represent. And we have had these kinds of issues. The constituency continues to be perceived as a constituency that has serious socioeconomic issues, has some academic performance issues, has been described in some instances over the last couple of decades as a hotspot. Do you think the kind of transformation that the constituency in some parts, Beetham, in some parts, other areas under your constituency, your MP remit, are being addressed as effectively as they should, given the wealth of talent we've had? Many people coming out of Laventille, Beetham, Kareem Marcel, one of them, who have excelled or who continue to excel, but generally there's a perception that the community is one that is a marginalized community, and the transformation that people see based on potential is not being realized.
That is a very, very, very intricate and complex matter that you have raised. A very, very, very complex matter. It touches on concerns, individual self-esteem, personal ambition. It does have some social issues around it in terms of the family. It does have issues around the community. It does have issues around the country and the way people view that community and the way the community has come to view itself. But I can tell you, for the most part, in fact, when I went down there on Saturday, all the young people, and there were many who engaged me, the majority of them were young people, because I was invited by a young group who had put on a concert, and they wanted, when I wasn't here, I was out of the country on the day of the concert, so I promised myself, when I return, I'll reach out to them, which I did. Out of that, the meeting came. It is about their development. They want to know how we can develop, and they're interested in helping all the youth, so to speak, in the area. So I welcomed that, not for the first time. So a lot has to do with the individuals, what they want, their own vision, and their willingness to take advice and to follow the pathways that are there for their development.
But that's, Minister, with respect, that's part of it. That's a part of it. How long have you been representative of that constituency, Unbroken?
Just finish this, Paul. Let me just finish this.
Sure, absolutely.
I've always said, and it's quite true, that there are opportunities available to them as exist for Trinidadians and Tobagonians all over Trinidad and Tobago. And you and everybody knows that. But what I know is that I have a sense, and in fact my address to them had a lot to do with the family and the community. So while individuals have these opportunities, there are influences in the community that has a strong pull, a strong influence. I mean, there are people who suffer serious crime, including rape, murder of their children, and they will be afraid and caught up. They will say nothing publicly because there are elements in communities like the one like that around Trinidad and Tobago who exert frightening authority in these communities because they possess guns, and people are afraid to lose their lives. And I'll tell you what, there are some cases where when things happen, instead of going to the police, they go to the leaders in the communities for resolution, because if they go to the police, that will be a problem for them. And I'll tell you something, it is on that basis that I have recognized at a ministerial level that one of the things we have to do is to remove these illegal guns out of the society to the largest possible and the greatest possible extent that we can, because the gun, the power of the gun, Rafiq Shah wrote about it in the last Sunday Express, the power of the gun is having a debilitating effect on communities in Trinidad and Tobago as they do on communities all over Latin America.
But Minister, you and I sat on a committee where we explored for 5 years, could be more, the issue of, one, the removal of the identification, finding and removal of illegal guns, but on the other side of it, the entry of illegal guns into the country through legitimate ports. So how are we winning that war?
That is its twin brother, and that's a good question you have asked. I don't know the answer to your question. What I know is the answer to the one I will raise. Can we stop? Can we give up? And the answer to that is undoubtedly, indubitably, no. So while I can answer your question, I've raised one for myself. Can we stop? Can we give up? And the answer is no. And the question of border security and mopping up the illegal guns which exert deadly power in our communities, and you don't see too much protest when that come down. I can
But as Minister of
Well, I mean,
National
I
Security,
agree with you, Minister, that the gun, the firearms, and all of that, and the gang, the mushrooming of more and more gangs. It seems
we have a job to liberate the people by offering them the opportunities of which I speak and a certain kind of effective law enforcement that I support and encourage.
But when are we going to see the results of that, Minister? Because we are now at this point 274 murders for the.
There are results, and many of those murders, persons are before the court, which is the process. You have a murder, it is investigated, and many more of them are being solved now. I am able to tell you that. And
but crime is the number one issue for Trinidadians and Tobagonians in any pool that's taken.
That is true. That is true.
And Trinidadians and Tobagonians, by and large, a lot of them feel unsafe. Home invasions, the amount of murders, and murders are a barometer. It's used as a barometer by the society. It is used.
There was a home invasion a few days ago in this country, I think in Federation Park or one of them around there, and it was solved. It was solved. So, yes, there are crimes, too many, traumatizing the society of all descriptions, and that is what law enforcement, supported by the people in the community, has to continue to fight. And I give you the assurance that fight continues. We can do better. We have to do better. We have to liberate the people from the criminals who surround them and traumatize them and abuse them. There are businesses in this country where criminals come weekly to collect tax. Small businesses, the woman selling fries and chicken wing in little communities around Trinidad and Tobago having to pay gangsters tax. That ain't no joke.
Yeah, and so what is the TTPS doing about that in the Ministry of National Security?
Well, of course, some songing has done, nothing is being done. The police are on the job, they're working. I'm saying that it has to be done. It has to continue to be done. They can do things differently. They can do things better. And that is the ongoing struggle. But when you ask, what are they doing? That sort of implies to someone not as educated as you that nothing is being done. And I'm not in a position to say so. Anyway, gentlemen, I have some engagements, including an early session of Parliament today. I have always enjoyed communicating with you and your listenership and viewership. Would you be kind enough to permit me to demit this space and to go elsewhere to continue my work?
Absolutely. Permission granted.
Permission granted, Honorable Minister. Thank you so much for being on the Power Breakfast Show as usual. Thank you. All the best to you.
Thank you very much for your hospitality and your gentility, especially you, Mr. Ragoobarsingh. Thank you.
All right. All the best to you.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. All right. Of course, that was the Honorable Minister Fitzgerald Hinds with us this morning.
I know for a lot of Trinidadians and Tobagonians listening, whether you live abroad or whether you live in Trinidad and Tobago, crime has to be frustrating because crime in Trinidad and Tobago running rampant or being at the high level that it is affects Trinidadians and Tobagonians abroad too, because they want the country to succeed. It's the land of their birth. You want it to be your pride and joy. And for Trinidadians and Tobagonians living here, it's something that we have to navigate, every day. Mm-hmm. And the society, a lot of it is psychological. There's a psychological component to crime. And I hear the Minister of National Security, but I don't know if words matter anymore. We are ranked 6th per capita in that world population survey in terms of crime and the criminal element. We had 13 murders. 13 killings in the last couple of days. 13. The issue of taxing businesses and gangs exerting and being bullies is something that the TTPS is quite aware of. And what are you doing about it, TTPS? I understand you can't be everywhere at once, but what are you doing? Part of accountability is letting us know that you've caught a criminal. It shouldn't be a secret.
And if you
Those
feel
two boys, those two fellas who busted that car on Arapita Avenue, were they caught?
Nope. And even if you feel safe for whatever reason, it must break your heart to hear what's happening in your country.
Exactly. Come on.
Even if you feel insulated for whatever reason, and you feel you insulate yourself. And most people don't feel that insulated because at some point you have to leave your house. And when you leave your house, you're vulnerable because of the oppressive nature of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. So, I don't know. It is just
recording stopped.
Terribly frustrating.
Dorothy.
And as we said, it's interesting that the Minister of National Security is the MP for the area. And the issue of the area and the transformation of the area in terms of perception and actuality is something that they need to consider seriously, because if you've been MP for a number of decades and the dark forces, the criminal elements, seem to exert more pull and more influence than you or the state or the opportunities, something wrong. And my perspective is that enough resources are being poured into the area. People feel marginalized, and areas that are in that situation need a disproportionately more resources poured in for them to come out of that abyss of darkness. They need resources poured in, they need opportunity, they need business investment, and they need guidance. I was so happy the other day to see people took the time to publish about 8 or 9 young people out of Laventille, Mova, Beetham, graduated from UAE, showing that people can come out of the area and do great stuff, which we've seen in the past, but not enough attention or spotlight is placed on that or their accomplishments. So now this whole situation yesterday, no matter how much people doing well or trying to come out of it and against the odds, puts people's perspective back on residents of the area in a negative light. So, can we open the phone lines?
Why not? All right. So 222 Talk, 612 Talk, toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. And that's a toll free number for those in North America. We'll probably back out to work today. Yeah. All right. So let's grab that.
Gary Griffith said, when you spoke to him earlier on this morning, that senior officers are reluctant to wear body cams. That told me so much, because Gary Griffith was commissioner for 3 years. And if as commissioner you can't insist by rule, regulation or force that they wear the body cams, something wrong.
Yep.
It actually confirmed to me what we've been saying for a long while here. The police don't want body cams.
Let's grab this call. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I found that interesting, the interview with Fitzgerald Hinds. But what I found quite interesting is when he laid out the list, self-esteem, low self-esteem, identity, and all the other issues, and then turn around and then say that there are systems that are in place that they have to utilize. Now, when you take into consideration what the Prime Minister say when you public health, taking violence as a public health emergency, and if you go on to the Scottish police, which they say Police Scotland and the Public Health Scotland, they launched a collaboration at looking at crime as a public health emergency and have defined certain things that they are approaching. The thing is that the system needs to change to deal with people who are suffering from particular the low self-esteem, the identity issues, and all those other things. The system feels that it doesn't have to change, and that's the problem. How the system changed to deal with the client is that they want the client to change for the system, and that will never work. And that's the problem with the politicians and the 43 of them, is that they refuse to understand it must change to deal with people who have things. So just saying that it's there and it's not taking it is not the answer. How you get a young man to be in the course and it be relevant to his particular issues and his particular low self-esteem, his anger, his other social kind of cultural experiences. And that is what we have never been able to do. That's why the education system ain't working, because people have bringing particular problems into spaces, and the spaces then don't deal with them right, so they drop out and they end up with this whole going round in a circle. And I think when we look, and it's interesting that I'm right on the the Police Scotland website, where they are talking about this thing called public health as an issue. And some of the things they have identified is the socio-economic factors. So here's police speaking about housing, speaking about mental issues, speaking about jobs and working, and how do they infusing that into their modern policing. And that is something I have heard no commissioner talk about, no minister of security, and obviously no. But what is interesting is that the prime minister throws it out. A journalist asked him to define it, and he said, I will speak about it another day. Okay, let's hear how they speak about how they will view violence as a public health emergency. And that is an interesting factor. How would a commissioner, how would a minister of security define that, or police in a talking about, how would they all talk about this thing if you look at violence as a public health emergency? How would the independent senator in Parliament talk about violence as a public health emergency? And I'll tell you, Professor Rhoda Reddock has been talking about that for 10 years. She presented it to Cham, and she presented it to a whole lot of people and things, this whole idea of how you have to realign your money. And that's what the defunding the police was. When that defunding police in the state came up, it's about realigning the billions of dollars into more social, practical thing that affects security and all these kind of things. And so it's something that you need to push when you're. It will be interesting to hear what the Minister of Security thinks about, thinks about that which his leader has put out onto the public domain. And I'm sure that nobody don't know how to talk about it or talk to it. Yeah, man. That's it.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So we're taking your calls as we head towards 9 a.m. on this Tuesday morning. 222 Talk, rainy Tuesday morning. 222 Talk, 222-8255, 612-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. And of course, people on the web and app, you can send your comments via the messaging portal.
All right, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I was listening to Paul Richards made us frequency. When you leave your home, you're not safe. But you're living in your home and you have home invasion. It have car invasion, it have all kind of invasion. So when you that you're really safe right now. You understand? And that's why I keep saying that the citizens and them who in the right minds and could be able to fire a weapon, you have to get them gun too. That's why I keep saying. Right? I listen to Mr. Hinds talk about he gets some intelligence that the police tell him they're doing something in the morning, and like when the police them gone, them people gone outside, them people gone. So them people outsmart the police then. The Trojan horse then. They outsmart the police. So the police them so bright. If we had nothing going on in the morning, nothing was going on for the rest of the day, so we were able to keep watch. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, we hear you.
If you know you're having something will happen because of a certain situation, Okay, intelligence in the morning. You ain't see nothing in the morning, all right, you pack up and you go home. And then if you go come out midday, when all of you are sleeping. Okay, that police service we have.
But that's what I'm
Correct.
saying. What
Thanks, Mr.
I suppose
Patrick.
that's the Mr. Patrick. That would be part of the question that was raised to the Minister of National Security. Was there an intelligence failure, and how is that intelligence failure being analyzed in the context of what took place yesterday?
Yeah. Good morning, caller.
Hi guys, good morning, good morning.
Morning.
You know when you have an interview with Mr. Hinds, you kind of go through all the words and see what you are saying. But what I heard him say is when he went into the BTM on Saturday, he didn't say anything and no one approached him and asked him what was going on. So what the purpose he went there for? I was surprised you all didn't pick up on that statement he made. Although he didn't have a proper briefing. It's quite 2 o'clock he went to the BTM. The incident happened 4 morning to 50. He didn't get a proper briefing on what actually went on, what investigation may be going on, so that at least you could have a proper story to you need to go there as MP and talk to the people. Not go there and the people talk to him. I don't understand that. So either they clearly don't have no respect for him, or no one was so interested in knowing he wouldn't have gotten anything done anyhow. So they quietly planned what they had planned and just left him. So he felt he was doing something with his mere presence. There was not his presence they wanted. They wanted placating, as Paul was alluding to earlier on this morning.
All right. Thank you, caller. I hear your point. Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Listen, I got, at least I should say, I listened to an activist this morning giving information about that situation that went down Saturday morning. And it is troubling. I mean, I feel the pain of the parents who lost their sons, because I have 2 sons. I remember when my son was leaving to go abroad and he partied in before he left. So it is hard. But based on what that activist was saying, that the young man was driving, I didn't even know that the chase started going west, because he said it was going west, and then they make a turn and come back down to head. I said, what madness going on here? And this is why the body cams are so important. I don't know what they're waiting on. Oh, my God. I mean, this thing is so disturbing. And another thing you are hearing, I heard one of the lawyers from the BTAM, I could call his name because he was on a radio station, a TV station this morning, Mr. Marcel, Carrie Marcel, he's a lawyer. He's saying the PCA cannot even investigate the police right now because the deputy director of the PCA, they have none. And the Constitution states they must have both a director. What are you waiting? I mean, what is really going on? This thing real upsetting. So right now, PCA can't even investigate what the police doing. What madness? What is we running a parlor? Man, look, man, I so upset hearing this situation this morning. It is. And I want to say to the mother of that young man from Rich Plain, Mr. Romain, ma'am, your prayers, that is not like when a mother bruised her knees. Because that woman wasn't praying. Oh no, so she son would be a dead man. And it is sad that the police could put whether the fella had charges, you don't put a murder on somebody if they didn't commit it. Thank God for the autopsy. And ma'am, I want to say, Narikele Moti, I give you praise for all what you do, that your son is alive today. You all have a wonderful day. Bye.
All right, thank you. 222 Talk, 612 Talk. We are taking some of your calls. It is 15 minutes before the hour of 9 o'clock. Of course, Sir Charles, he's in at 9 o'clock. He'll be followed by Third Base, and of course, David McIntyre comes on after him, together with Richard Norrie. All right? Traffic, it's still heavy going up Lady Young Road, out of Maraval, Churchill Roosevelt Highway. You're going to get traffic. That accident by Santa Rosa is still there. And by Coover, they had a car that just ran right off the road. Not blocking anything, but just a Mako traffic. All right, traffic is from Freeport heading straight up towards the Churchill Roosevelt Highway this morning. All right, San Fernando, it's lighter than usual. Yeah, it is lighter than usual. All right, so 222-8255, 612-8255. Good morning, Wayne, Joy, Dennis, Meb. Good morning to you all. That's on our message board, and you should have our app by now. You can send us a message anytime. All right, so 222 talk. The lines are open. Rich?
Yep.
Let me say good morning, going out to a young lady that came into the Pet Butler yesterday, Margaret Williams. Says he never misses the show. So good morning to you, Margaret. Thank you for coming by. She knows all of us to a T. All of us. So nice meeting you, Margaret. Have a great day today. Hope to see you soon. All right. Let's see, somebody else. Duke Street West. 60 years. And the people of what? Lots more to come. Good morning, guys. Thank you, Duke Street West. And good morning to you. All right, so let me take my quick break, and I shall be right back.
Calling all alumni of the former Mukurapa Junior Secondary School, now Mukurapa West Secondary, between the years 1972 to 1975. This year will mark the 50th anniversary of the school's inception, and we will be having a gala celebration on Saturday,